Natalie Brooks stared at the menu in front of her, her stomach twisting into knots that had nothing to do with hunger. Every price on the glossy page seemed to mock her. $28 for a pasta dish. $35 for chicken. She could feed herself and Sophie for 3 days on what one entree cost here. But tonight was special. Tonight was Sophie's 6th birthday, and her daughter had asked for just one thing: to eat at a fancy restaurant with tablecloths. Not toys. Not a party. Just a nice dinner with her mama. So here they sat in Marcello's, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago, surrounded by crystal chandeliers and people wearing watches that cost more than Natalie's monthly rent. She wore her nicest dress, an emerald green one she'd found at a thrift store, and Sophie wore a red dress Natalie had saved for 2 months to buy. "Mama, look how fancy the napkins are," Sophie whispered, her brown eyes wide with wonder as she touched the cloth napkin folded into an elegant swan shape. Natalie's heart squeezed. This was worth it. Every extra shift, every sore foot from standing all day at the hospital, every bus ride in the rain because her car had died 3 weeks ago. All worth it for that light in her daughter's eyes. "Very fancy, baby," Natalie said softly, reaching across to smooth Sophie's braided hair. "Just like you." When their pasta arrived, the portions were smaller than Natalie expected. She immediately began cutting Sophie's fettuccine into smaller pieces, the way her daughter preferred. The motion was automatic, loving, careful. She'd been doing this since Sophie was old enough to eat solid food. That's when the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Natalie looked up and felt her heart stop. Walking past the hostess stand, past the velvet ropes that separated the VIP section from the regular dining area, was a man she recognized from business magazines in the hospital waiting room. Harrison Cole. The Harrison Cole. CEO of Cole Enterprises, one of the wealthiest men in Chicago, maybe in the whole country. He was tall, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit. Beside him walked a little girl about Sophie's age, with long dark curls and a lavender dress that probably cost more than Natalie's entire wardrobe. The hostess was gesturing frantically toward the VIP section, clearly confused about why Mr. Cole was walking in the wrong direction. But Harrison wasn't looking at the VIP tables. He was looking directly at Natalie and Sophie. Natalie's hands froze on the fork and knife. Around them, conversation stopped. Other diners turned to watch. Even the waiters paused mid-step. Harrison Cole walked right up to their small table by the window. "Excuse me," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I'm Harrison and this is my daughter, Isabel. We couldn't help but notice you two from across the restaurant. My daughter was just telling me how much she wished she had someone to talk to tonight. Would you mind terribly if we joined you?" Natalie's mouth went dry. Was this really happening? A billionaire was asking to sit with them? She glanced at Sophie, whose eyes had gone round with surprise. Natalie started, her mind racing. Part of her wanted to say no, to protect her dignity, to avoid whatever this was. But Sophie was already nodding eagerly, and the hope on the little girl Isabel's face was so genuine. "Please," Isabel added softly. "I don't like sitting at big tables by myself." Something in those words broke through Natalie's hesitation. This little girl, despite all her wealth, looked lonely, just like Sophie sometimes did. "Of course," Natalie heard herself say. "Please sit down." Harrison's face broke into a genuine smile. He pulled out the chair across from Natalie while Isabel scrambled into the seat next to Sophie. The hostess rushed over with menus, looking flustered and confused, but Harrison waved her away politely. "I'm Natalie," she said, finding her voice. "And this is my daughter, Sophie. It's her birthday today." "Happy birthday, Sophie," Harrison said warmly. Then he turned to the waiter who had appeared. "We need a birthday celebration here. What does the restaurant do for birthdays?" The waiter, who had been staring at Harrison with barely concealed shock, snapped to attention. "Of course, Mr. Cole. Right away." As the waiter hurried off, Isabel leaned toward Sophie. "How old are you?" 6, Sophie said, holding up 6 fingers. "How old are you?" 8. "Do you like books?" "I love books. My favorite is about a girl who finds a secret garden." Sophie's face lit up. "I love that one too. My mama reads it to me every night." Natalie watched the girls fall into easy conversation, and some of the tension in her shoulders eased. She glanced at Harrison and found him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Thank you for letting us join you," he said quietly. "Isabel has been through a difficult time. Her mother passed away 3 years ago. Sometimes dinners out are hard for her when it's just the two of us." Natalie's heart clenched. "I'm so sorry for your loss." Harrison nodded, a shadow passing over his face. Thank you. And if I may ask, is Sophie's father? Not in the picture, Natalie said simply. She'd learned not to elaborate on that story. He left when I was pregnant. It's been just Sophie and me since the beginning. Something flickered in Harrison's eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or respect. That must be incredibly difficult. We manage, Natalie said, lifting her chin slightly. She wouldn't apologize for her life or her circumstances. Sophie is everything to me. I can see that, Harrison said. The way you were cutting her pasta, making sure every piece was perfect. That's real love. Natalie felt heat rise to her cheeks. She wasn't used to being noticed, especially not by someone like him. Before she could respond, the waiter returned with a cart. On it was a small birthday cake with candles, and suddenly the restaurant staff was singing happy birthday. Sophie's face absolutely glowed. Other diners smiled and even applauded when Sophie blew out her candles. What did you wish for, Sophie? Isabel asked. Sophie giggled. I can't tell, or it won't come true. But her eyes drifted to Harrison, and then to her mother, and Natalie had a feeling she knew exactly what her daughter had wished for. The same thing Natalie secretly wished for every night, not to feel so alone. The dinner continued with surprising ease. Harrison asked about Natalie's work, and she found herself telling him about her job as a nurse at County General, and her weekend shifts as a receptionist at a dental office. She didn't mention how exhausted she was, or how she sometimes fell asleep standing up, or how she cried in her car because she couldn't afford to fix it. Harrison listened like her words mattered. He asked thoughtful questions. He didn't look at his phone once. And when Isabel and Sophie started drawing pictures on the paper tablecloth with crayons the waiter had brought, he smiled at them with such tenderness that Natalie felt her heart ache. When the check came, Harrison took it before Natalie could even reach for it. Please let me, he said when she started to protest. It's Sophie's birthday and you've given Isabel a wonderful evening. This is my gift to your daughter. Natalie wanted to refuse. Pride told her to insist on paying her own way. But then she looked at Sophie's happy face, covered in chocolate from the cake, and she thought about the groceries she could buy with the money she'd save. Thank you, she said softly. That's very kind of you. As they prepared to leave, Harrison pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. My personal number, he said, handing it to Natalie. I know this is unusual, but Isabel hasn't smiled this much in months. Would you consider letting the girls have a playdate sometime? I think they'd both enjoy it. Natalie looked at the card, then at Harrison's face. There was no arrogance there, no pity. Just genuine kindness. I'd like that, she said. Wonderful. And please, let me have my driver take you home. It's late. Oh no, we can take the bus. I insist, Harrison said gently. It would make me feel better knowing you both got home safely. This time Natalie didn't argue. She was tired, and the bus stop was 6 blocks away, and she'd been on her feet for 12 hours before coming here. As they walked out into the cool evening air, Sophie slipped her hand into Natalie's. Mama, that was the best birthday ever. Natalie squeezed her daughter's hand, watching Harrison help Isabel into his car while his driver opened the door of another car for them. Maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Would you sit with a billionaire who approached your table? Or would you walk away? Subscribe and tell me what you do in the comments. The black town car that dropped Natalie and Sophie at their apartment building was nicer than anything Natalie had ever ridden in. The leather seats were soft, the ride was smooth, and Sophie had fallen asleep against her mother's shoulder within minutes. Thank you so much, Natalie told the driver as he opened the door for them outside the modest 3-story building. My pleasure, ma'am. Mr. Cole asked me to make sure you got inside safely. Natalie carried Sophie up the 2 flights of stairs to their apartment, her arms aching but her heart strangely light. She tucked Sophie into bed, kissing her forehead, and then sat on her own bed staring at the business card Harrison had given her. Harrison Cole. Gio. And on the back in neat handwriting. Call me anytime. 312-555-0147. It felt surreal. Like something from a movie, not from her real life of double shifts and ramen noodles and wondering if she'd have enough for Sophie's school supplies next month. She set the card on her nightstand and tried to sleep, but her mind kept replaying the evening. The way Harrison had listened when she talked. The way he'd looked at his daughter with such love. The way he'd insisted on helping without making her feel small. 2 days passed. Natalie worked her regular shift at the hospital, came home, helped Sophie with her homework and tried not to think about that dinner. It was just a nice moment, she told herself. Nothing more. Then, on Thursday afternoon, while Natalie was hanging laundry on the small balcony of their apartment, She heard a truck rumbling in the parking lot below. She looked down and froze. A tow truck was backing up to her broken-down car, the one that had been sitting in the same spot for 3 weeks with a dead battery and a broken alternator she couldn't afford to fix. Natalie rushed downstairs, her heart pounding. "Excuse me. That's my car." The tow truck driver looked up from his clipboard. "Are you Natalie Brooks?" "Yes, but I didn't call for a tow." "No, ma'am. This was arranged by a Mr. Cole. Instructions are to take the vehicle to Premium Auto Care for full service and repairs, all prepaid." Natalie's hand flew to her mouth. "What?" The driver handed her a small envelope. Inside was a note on expensive stationery. "Every parent deserves reliable transportation. Please accept this. The car will be returned tomorrow, fully serviced." See? Tears pricked Natalie's eyes. She stood there in the parking lot, watching them load her old Honda onto the truck, and she couldn't stop the emotions flooding through her. Gratitude, disbelief, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. As soon as Sophie was in bed that night, Natalie pulled out her phone and dialed the number on the card. Her hands were shaking. Harrison answered on the second ring. "Natalie? How did you know it was me? I was hoping you'd call." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Did the car get picked up?" "Harrison, I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's a car repair, not a private jet," he said gently. "And before you argue, please know that I didn't do this to make you uncomfortable. I did it because a reliable car means you can get to work safely. It means Sophie can get to school if she's sick and you need to pick her up. It's practical." "It's incredibly generous," Natalie said, her voice thick. "You're a nurse. You spend every day helping people. Consider this someone finally helping you." Natalie sat down on her couch, phone pressed to her ear. "I don't know how to thank you. Have dinner with us again." Isabel hasn't stopped talking about Sophie. She wants to show her the books in her room and teach her how to braid friendship bracelets. Would Sophie like that? Natalie laughed, wiping her eyes. She would love that. "This Saturday? I can send my driver at noon. We can take the bus." "Natalie." His voice was firm but kind. "Please let me send the car. It would make me happy." She closed her eyes. Every instinct told her not to accept more help, not to let herself rely on someone who could disappear from their lives as quickly as he'd entered. But she also thought about Sophie's face when she talked about Isabel. About how her daughter rarely had friends over because their apartment was small and Natalie was always working. "Okay," she said softly. "Saturday at noon." Saturday arrived with Sophie bouncing off the walls with excitement. She'd picked out her best outfit, a bright red shirt and denim skirt, and had made Natalie braid her hair 3 different times until it was perfect. When the car arrived, Sophie pressed her face against the window the entire drive, watching the city change from their neighborhood to the wealthy suburb where Harrison lived. Harrison's house was not what Natalie expected. Yes, it was large, but it wasn't showy. It was a beautiful brick home with a wide front porch and a yard full of trees. Isabel burst out the front door before they even got out of the car. "Sophie, you're here." The girls hugged like they'd been best friends for years, not 2 kids who'd met once at a restaurant. Harrison appeared in the doorway, wearing jeans and a simple blue sweater, looking more relaxed than he had in his business suit. "Welcome," he said, his eyes meeting Natalie's. "Thank you for coming." Inside, the house was warm and comfortable. Not overly formal or cold like Natalie had imagined. There were books everywhere, comfortable furniture, and photos of Isabel at various ages. In many of them, a beautiful woman with dark hair smiled beside Harrison, his late wife. "The girls have been planning this for days," Harrison said as Isabel dragged Sophie upstairs to her room. "I hope you don't mind spending a few hours here. I thought we could let them play while we have coffee." "That sounds nice," Natalie said. They settled in the kitchen, a bright space with windows overlooking a garden. Harrison poured coffee from a French press and set out cookies that Natalie suspected he'd baked himself based on the slight unevenness of them. "Did you make these?" she asked. He looked slightly embarrassed. "I've been learning to cook since I became a single parent. I'm not very good yet." Natalie took a bite. They were actually delicious. "These are wonderful." They talked easily, the conversation flowing like they'd known each other for years. Harrison asked about her work at the hospital, and Natalie found herself telling him about her patients, about the elderly woman in 304 who had no family but always smiled when Natalie checked on her, about the little boy who was afraid of needles until Natalie sang to him. "You really love what you do," Harrison observed. "I do. I just wish." She stopped herself. "Wish what?" Natalie hesitated, then figured honesty was better than pretense. I wish I could work just one job instead of two. I'm tired all the time. Sophie deserves a mother who has energy to play with her after school, not one who falls asleep during bedtime stories. Harrison's expression grew thoughtful. What if there was a way to change that? Unless you're offering to pay my bills, I don't see how, Natalie said with a small laugh. But Harrison wasn't laughing. He was looking at her with that same intense focus he'd had at the restaurant. Actually, I've been thinking about something. My company has been growing rapidly. We have over 3,000 employees now, but we don't have anyone focused on employee wellness. I need someone who understands healthcare, who cares about people, who could develop programs to help our staff stay healthy and balanced. Natalie's heart started to beat faster. What are you saying? I'm saying I'd like to offer you a position. Wellness coordinator for Cole Enterprises. You develop health initiatives, work with our insurance providers, maybe even set up an on-site clinic eventually. The salary would be $90,000 a year to start, with full benefits. Natalie's coffee cup clattered against the saucer. $90,000? Is that not enough? I can go higher. Harrison. Her voice came out as a whisper. I make $32,000 at both my jobs combined. His eyes widened. Natalie, you're worth so much more than that. Tears were streaming down her face now, and she didn't care. This was life-changing. This was everything. Sophie could have new clothes. They could move to a better apartment, maybe even a small house. Natalie could work normal hours and be there when Sophie got home from school. Why are you doing this? She asked. You barely know me. Harrison reached across the table and gently took her hand. I'm doing this because you're qualified, because you're the kind of person I want representing my company, and because sometimes life gives us the chance to help someone and we should take it. Will you accept? Natalie thought about her pride, about independence, about all the reasons she should be suspicious. Then she thought about Sophie, about the life they could have, about not being so tired she could barely stand. Yes, she said, squeezing his hand. Yes, I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. Harrison smiled, and the warmth in his eyes made Natalie's breath catch. You start Monday if that works for you. I'll have HR send over the paperwork. From upstairs they heard the girls laughing, the sound bright and joyful. Natalie closed her eyes and let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe good things really could happen. That maybe kindness was real. That maybe, just maybe, their lives were about to get better. And she was right. Monday morning arrived with Natalie's alarm going off at 6. For the first time in years, she wasn't dreading the day. Instead, she was nervous in an entirely different way. Today was her first day at Cole Enterprises. She'd given her notice at both jobs over the weekend. Her supervisor at the hospital had been sad to see her go but happy for her opportunity. The dental office had simply shrugged and said they'd find someone else. Natalie stood in front of her closet, staring at her limited options. She'd spent Sunday afternoon at a discount store, using money from her last paycheck to buy 2 new outfits suitable for an office job. She chose a royal blue blouse and black dress pants, simple but professional. Sophie watched from the bed, already dressed for school in her favorite yellow shirt. You look pretty, Mama. Thank you, baby. Natalie kissed her daughter's forehead. Mrs. Chin downstairs will pick you up from school today, okay? Mama might be home a little late. Because you have your new job? That's right. Sophie grinned. I'm proud of you, Mama. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. How did she get so lucky to have this child? I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. The drive to Cole Enterprises in her newly repaired car felt surreal. The building was downtown, all glass and steel, 40 stories of modern architecture. Natalie's stomach fluttered as she parked in the garage, in a spot marked reserved in Brooks. She had a reserved parking spot. Her own parking spot. The lobby was impressive, with marble floors and a security desk. Natalie gave her name and received a badge and directions to the 32nd floor. In the elevator she took deep breaths, trying to calm her nerves. The doors opened to a reception area with Cole Enterprises spelled out in elegant letters on the wall. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes greeted her. You must be Natalie. I'm Patricia, Mr. Cole's executive assistant. Welcome. Let me show you to your office. Office? She had an office. Patricia led her down a hallway lined with windows overlooking the city. Mr. Cole wanted you close to his office since you'll be working closely with him on wellness initiatives. Here we are. The office was beautiful. Not huge but bright, with windows, a proper desk, a computer and a small couch. On the desk was a vase of fresh flowers and a note. Welcome to the team. Looking forward to working with you. See. Mr. Cole is in meetings all morning, Patricia said, but he asked me to help you get settled. HR will be up shortly with your paperwork, and I've scheduled introductions with department heads for this afternoon. The morning passed in a blur. Natalie filled out forms, set up her computer, and met with the HR director who explained her benefits package. Health insurance with no deductible. Dental and vision. A retirement plan where the company matched contributions. 3 weeks of vacation. Natalie had to read the benefits summary twice to believe it was real. At noon there was a knock on her door. Harrison stood there in a charcoal gray suit, looking every inch the CEO, but his smile was warm. "How's the first day going?" "It's overwhelming," Natalie admitted. "In the best possible way." "Good. I wanted to take you to lunch if you're free. There's a quiet place across the street where we can talk about your role without interruption." They walked to a small bistro, and over salads, Harrison outlined his vision. "I want Cole Enterprises to be known for how well we treat our employees. I've seen too many companies burn people out, treat them like machines. I want wellness programs, mental health resources, fitness initiatives, maybe even childcare support eventually." Natalie listened, her mind already spinning with ideas. What about a program where employees can bring their kids to work once a month? And counseling services, confidential ones, for people dealing with stress or personal issues. Harrison's eyes lit up. "Exactly. See, this is why I knew you were perfect for this role. You understand what real people need." "Because I am a real person," Natalie said. "A month ago, I was choosing between fixing my car and buying Sophie new shoes. I know what your employees are dealing with. And that perspective is invaluable." Harrison paused, his expression growing more serious. "Natalie, I want you to know this isn't charity. I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing this because you're capable and compassionate, and those qualities are rare." "I know," Natalie said softly. "And I'm grateful. Not just for the job, but for seeing me as more than my circumstances." Something passed between them in that moment, something neither was quite ready to name. But it was there, warm and real. Over the next 2 weeks, Natalie threw herself into her new role. She surveyed employees about what they needed. She researched wellness programs other companies offered. She met with insurance providers and mental health professionals. And twice a week, she and Sophie would have dinner with Harrison and Isabel. Sometimes at restaurants, sometimes at Harrison's house where the girls would play while the adults talked. The four of them fell into an easy rhythm, like pieces of a puzzle finding their places. One evening, as Natalie was loading the dishwasher at Harrison's house while the girls watched a movie in the living room, Harrison came up beside her. "You don't have to do that. I have someone who comes in to clean." "I know. But I want to help." She glanced at him. "You've done so much for us, Harrison. This is the least I can do." "You're not obligated to me," he said quietly. "I hope you know that. The job is yours because you earned it. The friendship between our daughters, that's real. And this." He gestured between them. "Whatever this is, it's not about obligation." Natalie dried her hands on a towel and turned to face him fully. "Then what is it about?" Harrison looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "I think it's about two people who understand what it means to be alone, finding out they don't have to be anymore." Before Natalie could respond, Isabel called from the living room. "Daddy, can Sophie sleep over? Please?" Harrison and Natalie shared a smile. "Let me guess," Natalie said. "This has been planned?" "For about an hour now, according to the whispers I've been hearing." They walked into the living room where both girls were giving them hopeful looks. "Can she, Mama? Please?" Sophie begged. Natalie looked at Harrison, who nodded. "She's welcome anytime." "Okay," Natalie agreed, and both girls cheered. As Natalie prepared to leave, Harrison walked her to the door. "Thank you for saying yes. Isabel has been so much happier since we met you." "Sophie has too," Natalie said. "She's always wanted a friend like Isabel." "And I." She hesitated. "I've always wanted someone who sees me the way you do." Harrison reached out and gently touched her cheek. "I see someone strong and kind. Someone who loves her daughter more than anything. Someone who deserves every good thing that comes her way." Natalie felt tears threatening. "You barely know me." "Then let me get to know you better," Harrison said. "No pressure, no expectations. Just two people spending time together." Natalie nodded, not trusting her voice. As she drove home that night, alone for the first time in weeks without Sophie, she let herself admit what she'd been feeling. She was falling for Harrison Cole. Not because of his money or his power, but because of his kindness. Because of the way he looked at his daughter. Because of the way he listened when she talked. And maybe, just maybe, he was falling for her too. 3 months passed like a beautiful dream. Natalie's wellness program at Cole Enterprises was taking shape. She'd implemented a series of lunch and learn sessions where employees could attend talks on nutrition, stress management, and work-life balance. The response had been overwhelming. More than that, Natalie had discovered she was good at this. Really good. She had a natural ability to connect with people, to understand what they needed, and to create solutions that actually helped. Her calendar was full of meetings with employees who wanted to talk about the programs, share their struggles, or just thank her for caring. "You've transformed this place," Harrison told her one afternoon when he stopped by her office. "Employee satisfaction scores are up 20% since you started." Natalie looked up from her computer, where she'd been designing a flyer for a new meditation room she wanted to create on the 30th floor. "Really? Really? You should be proud." "I am," she admitted. "This feels right, you know? Like this is what I was meant to do." Harrison smiled, that warm smile that had become so familiar to her. "Have dinner with me tonight? Just us. The girls are having a sleepover at Isabel's friend's house." Natalie's heart skipped. They'd had plenty of dinners together, but always with the girls. This felt different. "Like a date?" "If you want it to be," Harrison said carefully. "Or just two friends having dinner. Whatever you're comfortable with." Natalie found herself smiling. A date sounds nice. That evening Harrison picked her up at 7. He'd made reservations at an intimate French restaurant, the kind of place Natalie would never have dreamed of entering a few months ago. But now, in a beautiful green dress she'd bought with her first real paycheck, she felt like she belonged. Over wine and cocoa vin they talked about everything. Harrison told her about his childhood, growing up as the son of a successful businessman who had built Cole Enterprises from nothing. "My father taught me that money is a tool, not a goal," Harrison said. "He always said the measure of success is how many lives you improve, not how many zeros are in your bank account." "He sounds like a good man," Natalie said. "He was. He died 5 years ago. Heart attack at his desk." Harrison's expression grew distant. "I think about him a lot. About whether he'd be proud of the man I've become." "I think he would be," Natalie said softly. "You're raising a wonderful daughter. You've built a company that treats people well. You help people who need it." Harrison reached across the table and took her hand. "You help me be better. Both of you. Before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Working constantly, barely spending time with Isabel, keeping everyone at arm's length." "What changed?" Natalie asked. "I saw you cutting pasta for your daughter," Harrison said simply. "I saw real love, real devotion, real strength. And I realized I'd been hiding from life instead of living it. You reminded me what matters." Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. "I was so scared that night. Scared I couldn't afford the dinner, scared Sophie would be disappointed, scared I was failing her by not being able to give her more." "You were giving her everything that matters," Harrison said. "Your presence, your attention, your love. That's more valuable than anything money can buy." "Tell me about your wife," Natalie said gently. "If you want to." Harrison was quiet for a moment. "Catherine was wonderful. Smart, funny, full of life. We met in college, got married young. She was an architect, brilliant at what she did. When Isabel was born, Catherine was so happy." His voice caught. "The accident was sudden. Wrong place, wrong time. A drunk driver ran a red light." "I'm so sorry," Natalie whispered. "For a long time I was angry. At the world, at fate, at myself for not being there. I buried myself in work, barely present for Isabel even though she needed me desperately. It wasn't until I met you that I realized I was letting Catherine's death steal the rest of my life from me." Natalie squeezed his hand. "She'd want you to be happy." "I know. And I am happy. With you, with our daughters together, with this thing growing between us." He looked at her intently. "Natalie, I haven't felt this way since Catherine. I didn't think I could. But you've shown me that hearts can heal, that life can begin again." "I feel the same way," Natalie admitted. "Sophie's father left me feeling worthless. Like I wasn't enough. But you make me feel valuable. See, like I matter." "You do matter," Harrison said firmly. "You matter so much." After dinner they walked through the nearby park, the summer evening warm and pleasant. Their hands found each other naturally, fingers intertwining like they'd been doing this for years. "Tell me about your dreams," Harrison said. "What do you want for your future?" Natalie thought about it. "I want Sophie to have opportunities one never had. I want her to go to a good college without drowning in debt. I want her to know she can be anything she wants." "And what do you want for yourself?" I want to feel secure, Natalie said honestly. To not wake up every morning worried about money. To have time to enjoy life, not just survive it. And she hesitated. I want to be loved. Really loved. Not because someone needs something from me, but just because of who I am. Harrison stopped walking and turned to face her. The streetlights cast a soft glow around them. You are loved, Natalie. By Sophie, by Isabel. And by me. Natalie's breath caught. Harrison. I'm falling in love with you, he said simply. Maybe I have been since that first night in the restaurant. I know it's fast and I know you might not be ready, but I needed you to know. You've brought light back into my life. Natalie reached up and touched his face. I'm falling in love with you too. It terrifies me, but it's true. Harrison leaned down and kissed her, gentle and sweet, and Natalie felt like her heart might burst. This was real. This was happening. After so many years of struggle and loneliness, she was standing in a park being kissed by a man who saw her, truly saw her, and loved what he saw. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. So what do we do now? Natalie asked. We take it slow, Harrison said. We let the girls adjust to us being together. We build something real and lasting. That sounds perfect, Natalie said. They walked back to his car, hands still linked, talking about everything and nothing. When Harrison dropped her off at her apartment, he walked her to the door like a gentleman from an old movie. Thank you for tonight, Natalie said. Thank you for saying yes. Harrison kissed her forehead. Sleep well, Natalie. Inside her apartment, Natalie leaned against the door, grinning like a teenager. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Is Mr. Cole your boyfriend now? Isabel says he is. Natalie laughed and texted back. Maybe? Is that okay with you? The response was immediate. Yes. We can be real sisters. Natalie's heart swelled. This was what happiness felt like. Real, genuine, lasting happiness. And she was going to hold on to it with everything she had. The next 6 weeks felt like living in a perfect dream. Natalie and Harrison spent every free moment together, sometimes with the girls, sometimes just the two of them. They went to movies, took walks along the lakefront, had picnics in the park. Harrison was attentive and thoughtful, always making sure Natalie felt valued and heard. At work, Natalie's wellness programs continued to flourish. She'd successfully launched the meditation room, which employees loved. She'd also started a program where team members could access free counseling services, completely confidential. The feedback had been incredible. One Tuesday afternoon, Harrison appeared at her office door looking unusually serious. Do you have a minute? Of course. Natalie saved the document she was working on. Is something wrong? Harrison closed the door behind him and sat across from her desk. Nothing's wrong. I've been thinking about something, and I want to run it by you. Okay, Natalie said, curious. You're amazing at what you do, Harrison began. The wellness program has exceeded every expectation. But I've been watching you work and I think you're capable of more. Much more. Natalie tilted her head. What do you mean? I want to expand your role. Make you Director of Human Resources and Employee Wellness. You'd oversee not just wellness programs but all HR functions. Hiring, employee relations, benefits administration, everything. Natalie's eyes widened. Harrison, I don't have experience in those areas. You have something better than experience. You have heart. You understand people. And honestly, our current HR director is retiring in 2 months. I can't think of anyone better to replace her. What's the current HR director's name? Natalie asked. Helen Martinez. She's been with the company for 20 years. I'd want you to work closely with her during the transition, learn everything she knows. Natalie's mind was racing. This was a huge opportunity. But doubt crept in. People will think I only got the job because we're dating. People will think what they think, Harrison said. But anyone paying attention will see that you've earned this. Natalie, I wouldn't offer you this position if I didn't believe you were the best person for it. My company is too important to me to make decisions based on anything but merit. What's the salary? Natalie asked, trying to be practical. $130,000 plus performance bonuses. Natalie nearly fell out of her chair. 6 months ago, she'd been struggling to afford groceries. Now she was being offered a 6-figure salary. I need some time to think about it, she said carefully. Of course. Take all the time you need. Harrison stood. But Natalie, I believe in you. I think you can do this. That evening, Natalie talked it over with Sophie while they made dinner together in their apartment. Well, Natalie made dinner while Sophie sat at the kitchen table doing homework. Mr. Cole wants to give you an even better job? Sophie asked. Yes. But it's a big responsibility. I'd be in charge of a lot of people. You're good at being in charge, Mama. You're in charge of me and you do great. Natalie laughed. That's different, baby. Not really. You make sure I'm okay, you help me when I'm sad, you know what I need even when I don't say it. That's what you do for people. Out of the mouths of babes, Natalie thought. Her 6-year-old daughter had just summarized the entire job description. The next morning, Natalie went to Helen Martinez's office. Helen was a woman in her early 60s with silver hair and laugh lines around her eyes. You must be Natalie, Helen said warmly. Harrison told me you might stop by. I wanted to talk to you about the HR director position. If I take it, I want to make sure I do right by the employees and by you. Helen smiled. Sit down, dear. Let's talk. They spent 2 hours together, Helen explaining the complexities of the role, the challenges, the rewards. This job requires someone who genuinely cares about people, Helen said. I've met a lot of HR professionals who see employees as numbers or problems. You see them as humans. That's rare and valuable. Do you think I can do it? Natalie asked honestly. I think you're exactly what this company needs. And I'd be happy to mentor you through the transition. I might be retiring from full-time work, but I'm not disappearing. I can consult, answer questions, be your sounding board. That sealed it for Natalie. She found Harrison in his office later that afternoon. I'll take the position, she said. But I have conditions. Harrison looked amused. Conditions? I want Helen to stay on as a consultant for at least 6 months. I want to implement new parental leave policies that are more generous. And I want to make sure everyone knows I'm qualified for this role, that it's not nepotism. Done, and I'll have PR draft an announcement highlighting your accomplishments, Harrison said. Anything else? Just this. Natalie walked around his desk and kissed him. Thank you for believing in me. Always, Harrison murmured against her lips. The announcement went out the next week. There was some gossip, of course. Some people whispered that Natalie only got the job because she was dating the CEO. But most employees were thrilled. They'd seen how much Natalie cared, how hard she worked, how much she'd improved things in just a few months. On her first official day as HR director, Natalie found a card on her desk from the entire wellness team. We always knew you were destined for great things. Thank you for showing us that kindness and competence can coexist. That night, Harrison took her and the girls out to celebrate. They went to a casual Italian restaurant where Sophie and Isabel shared a massive plate of spaghetti while Natalie and Harrison watched them with pure affection. Look at them, Harrison said softly. They're like real sisters. I know, Natalie said. Sophie has never had that kind of connection with anyone. Neither has Isabel. Harrison took Natalie's hand. We're building something here. A family. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning and possibility. Natalie felt tears threaten. Is that what we're doing? I hope so, Harrison said. If you want to. Natalie looked at Sophie, at Isabel, at this man who had changed her entire life with his kindness. I want to, she whispered. And right there, in a noisy restaurant with red and white checkered tablecloths, Natalie Brooks let herself believe in happily ever after. Fall arrived in Chicago with crisp air and brilliant leaves. Natalie had been HR director for 2 months and she was thriving. The initial doubts she'd had about her abilities had faded as she proved herself day after day. She'd successfully mediated 3 employee disputes, improved the hiring process to be more inclusive, and increased employee retention by 15%. But more importantly, her relationship with Harrison had deepened into something beautiful and real. They'd established a rhythm. 3 nights a week, they had family dinners together, alternating between Harrison's house and Natalie's apartment. Sophie and Isabel were inseparable now, finishing each other's sentences and giggling over inside jokes only they understood. On Friday nights, when the girls had sleepovers at Harrison's house, he and Natalie would have date nights. Sometimes they went out, sometimes they stayed in, cooking together in his kitchen while music played and they talked about everything and nothing. One Saturday in late October, Harrison suggested they all go apple picking at an orchard outside the city. The 4 of them piled into Harrison's SUV, the girls chattering excitedly in the back seat. The orchard was beautiful, acres of trees heavy with red and golden apples. Sophie and Isabel raced ahead, their laughter echoing through the rows of trees. Natalie and Harrison followed at a slower pace, hands linked. I love this, Natalie said, breathing in the autumn air. I can't remember the last time we did something like this. Catherine and I used to bring Isabel here, Harrison said quietly. I haven't been back since she died. It felt too painful. Natalie stopped walking and turned to face him. Are you okay being here? Harrison looked around, his expression thoughtful. Actually, yes. It doesn't hurt the way I thought it would. I think it's because I'm making new memories now. With you. Tell me more about her, Natalie said gently. I want to know about the woman who meant so much to you. They sat under an apple tree while the girls played nearby, and Harrison talked about Catherine. About how they'd met at a college party and talked until sunrise. About their wedding in a small chapel with just family. About how Catherine had decorated Isabel's nursery with hand-painted murals of storybook characters. She sounds wonderful, Natalie said when he finished. She was. And I think she'd like you. Harrison smiled. She always said that the most important quality in a person is kindness. You have that in abundance. I worry sometimes, Natalie admitted, that I'm not enough for you. That you're used to someone sophisticated and educated and I'm just what? Harrison interrupted, his voice firm. Just one of the strongest women I've ever met? Just someone who raised an incredible daughter while working 2 jobs? Just someone who transformed my company's culture in a matter of months. I didn't go to college, Natalie said softly. So what? Intelligence comes in many forms. You have emotional intelligence, practical wisdom, and a work ethic that puts most people to shame. Those things matter more than any degree. Natalie felt tears on her cheeks. Why do you always know exactly what to say? Because I see you, Natalie. The real you. And I love what I see. Before she could respond, Sophie and Isabel came running over, their baskets full of apples. Mama, look how many we picked. Sophie exclaimed. Can we make apple pie when we get home? Isabel asked. Absolutely, Harrison said. But only if you two help. That afternoon, back at Harrison's house, the 4 of them crowded into the kitchen. Harrison pulled up a recipe on his tablet while Natalie peeled apples. The girls measured ingredients, getting flour everywhere and sneaking bites of brown sugar when they thought no one was looking. This is the best day ever, Sophie declared, her face smudged with cinnamon. Isabel nodded enthusiastically. We should do this every weekend. While the pie baked, filling the house with warm, sweet smells, they played board games in the living room. Harrison let the girls win at Monopoly, and Natalie pretended not to notice when he moved his piece backward a few spaces. Later, after the pie had been devoured and the girls were upstairs watching a movie, Harrison and Natalie sat on the back porch. The evening was cool, and Harrison had draped a blanket around Natalie's shoulders. I want to talk to you about something, Harrison said, his tone serious. Natalie's stomach fluttered. Okay. We've been together for almost 6 months. The girls are happy. We're happy. I think we should consider making this more official. What do you mean? Natalie asked, though her heart was pounding because she thought she knew. Move in with me, Harrison said. You and Sophie. I know it's a big step, but this house is huge and empty and half the time you're here anyway. The girls share Isabel's room when you stay over. We could turn one of the guest rooms into Sophie's permanent room. Make this a real home for all of us. Natalie's mind was spinning. Move in? With Harrison? Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. But another part was cautious. That's a big step. What if it doesn't work out? Then we figure it out, Harrison said simply. But Natalie, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. I love Sophie. I want us to be a family. I love you too, Natalie whispered. So much it scares me sometimes. Then be scared with me, Harrison said, pulling her close. We'll figure it out together. I need to think about it, Natalie said. And talk to Sophie. This affects her too. Of course. Take all the time you need. That night, lying in bed in her own apartment, Natalie thought about Harrison's offer. She thought about Sophie having her own room in a big, beautiful house. About not worrying about rent. About waking up next to Harrison every morning. But she also thought about her independence, about the life she'd built on her own, about whether it was too soon. The next morning she talked to Sophie over pancakes. Mr. Harrison asked if we want to move into his house. What do you think? Sophie's eyes went huge. Really? We could live there? With Isabel? Yes. We'd have our own rooms and we'd all be together. But it's a big change. Sophie was quiet for a moment, her face serious in that way children get when they're thinking hard. Would Mr. Harrison be like my dad? Natalie's breath caught. Would you want that? I never had a dad, Sophie said softly. But Mr. Harrison is nice to me. He listens when I talk. He helps me with my homework. He makes you smile, Mama. I think that's what dads do. Natalie pulled her daughter into a fierce hug. You're so wise, baby. So can we move there? Natalie thought about everything Harrison had done for them. The job, the car, the kindness. But more than that, she thought about the way he looked at her like she was precious. The way he made her laugh. The way he brought joy back into her life. Yes, she said. Yes, we can. Sophie cheered, and Natalie laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. They were going to be a family. A real family. The move happened gradually over the next 3 weeks. Harrison had insisted on hiring professional movers, but Natalie had packed most of their things herself. She wanted to be careful with their belongings, to make sure Sophie's treasured items were handled gently. Harrison had transformed one of the guest rooms into a beautiful space for Sophie. Pale pink walls, a white bookshelf already filled with new books, a desk for homework, and a bed with a canopy that made Sophie gasp with delight when she first saw it. It's like a princess room, Sophie breathed. Every girl deserves to feel like a princess, Harrison said, ruffling her hair. Natalie stood in the doorway watching Harrison with her daughter, and felt her heart swell. This was real. This was happening. Living together was easier than Natalie expected. Harrison was considerate, always asking what she needed, making sure she felt comfortable. They established routines, sharing morning coffee while the girls got ready for school, cooking dinner together in the evenings, reading bedtime stories to both girls before tucking them in. It was everything Natalie had ever dreamed of. Which was why, when Harrison invited her to a company gala the following month, she felt her old anxieties creeping back. I don't know if I should go, Natalie said one evening while they were loading the dishwasher. Why not? Harrison looked genuinely confused. Because it's your world, Harrison. Rich people in expensive clothes talking about things I know nothing about. I'll embarrass you. Harrison stopped what he was doing and turned to face her fully. Natalie Brooks, look at me. She met his eyes. You could never embarrass me. You're brilliant, compassionate, and you've earned your place at that company through hard work. You belong there just as much as anyone else. But I don't have the right clothes, I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners, I didn't go to the right schools. None of that matters, Harrison said firmly. What matters is who you are as a person. And you, Natalie, are extraordinary. Despite his reassurance, Natalie's anxiety only grew as the gala approached. She bought a dress, a deep emerald gown that cost more than she'd ever spent on clothing in her life. She had her hair and makeup done professionally. She practiced small talk in front of the mirror. The night of the gala, Harrison looked devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo. He kissed her cheek and whispered, "You look beautiful." The event was held at one of Chicago's most prestigious hotels. The ballroom was stunning, all crystal chandeliers and gold accents. Women in designer gowns mingled with men in expensive suits. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that Natalie couldn't identify. At first it was fine. Harrison introduced her to people and they were polite. But as the evening wore on, Natalie began to notice the looks. The way some women's eyes traveled over her dress, assessing and finding it wanting. The way conversations would pause when she approached, then resume with a new, artificial politeness. At dinner, seated at Harrison's table with several board members and their spouses, Natalie felt completely out of place. They talked about vacation homes in the Hamptons, about art auctions in Paris, about prep schools for their children. "And where did you attend university, Natalie?" one woman asked. Her name was Patricia Thornton, and her diamond necklace probably cost more than a car. "I didn't," Natalie said honestly. "I went to work right after high school." "Oh." Patricia's smile was tight. "How interesting." The conversation moved on, but Natalie felt the judgment. She picked at her food, barely tasting the expensive meal. Harrison kept reaching for her hand under the table, squeezing it reassuringly, but it didn't help much. When Harrison excused himself to make a brief speech, Patricia leaned over to the woman next to her, not bothering to lower her voice much. Can you imagine? Harrison Cole with a woman who didn't even go to college. Catherine must be rolling in her grave. Natalie felt like she'd been slapped. She stood abruptly, mumbling something about the restroom, and fled the ballroom. She found herself in an empty hallway, fighting tears, wondering why she'd ever thought she could fit into Harrison's world. Harrison found her 10 minutes later. He took one look at her face and pulled her into his arms. "What happened?" "I heard what she said. About Catherine. About me not belonging here." The tears finally came. "She's right, Harrison. I don't fit in your world." "That's not my world," Harrison said fiercely. "Those people in there, with their judgments and their superficial conversations, they're not what matters to me. You are. Our girls are. The life we're building together, that's my world. But people will always see me as less than you. Let them." Harrison cupped her face in his hands. Natalie, I have met hundreds of people with impressive degrees and important titles and fancy pedigrees. Most of them are shallow, selfish, and empty. You have more substance in your little finger than Patricia Thornton has in her entire body. I just don't want to be an embarrassment to you. Listen to me. Harrison's voice was intense. I am proud to have you by my side. Proud of where you came from, proud of what you've overcome, proud of the person you are. Anyone who can't see how extraordinary you are isn't worth knowing. He led her back to the ballroom, but instead of returning to their table, he guided her to the stage where he'd given his speech earlier. The band had just started playing and couples were moving to the dance floor. Harrison tapped the microphone. Excuse me, everyone. I'd like to say something. The room quieted, all eyes turning to them. Natalie's heart pounded. This is Natalie Brooks, Harrison said, his arm around her waist. Some of you know her as our HR director. I know her as the woman who brought meaning back into my life and my daughter's life. She's kind, brilliant, hardworking, and compassionate. She came from nothing and built herself into someone remarkable through sheer determination and heart. I'm proud to love her, and I'm proud to have her representing Cole Enterprises. The room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Soon the entire ballroom was applauding. Patricia Thornton's face was red with embarrassment. Harrison pulled Natalie onto the dance floor, and they swayed to the music while everyone watched. Did you really just do that? Natalie whispered. I really just did that. And I meant every word. He kissed her forehead. You are my partner, Natalie. In every way that matters. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. I won't, Natalie promised. And she meant it. On the drive home, Natalie felt lighter. Harrison had defended her publicly, had made it clear to everyone that she mattered. That she was valued. That she was loved. When they got home, they checked on the girls who were sleeping peacefully in their rooms. Then Harrison pulled Natalie close in the hallway outside their bedroom. I love you, he said simply. Never doubt that. I love you too, Natalie replied. Thank you for tonight. For standing up for me. Always, Harrison promised. You and I were building something real. Something that matters. The rest is just noise. And as they fell asleep that night, Natalie believed him. For the first time since moving in, she felt like she truly belonged. Not because of money or status or education, but because Harrison saw her worth. And that was enough. December arrived with the first snowfall of the season. Chicago transformed into a winter wonderland, and Harrison's house became a hub of holiday activity. The girls helped decorate the tree, giggling as they hung ornaments and wound strings of lights around the branches. Natalie had never had a Christmas like this. Growing up, holidays had been sparse, and as a single mother, she'd always struggled to make Christmas special for Sophie on their limited budget. But this year was different. This year they had abundance in every sense of the word. Can we get a real tree next year? Sophie asked, admiring the large artificial tree in the living room. This is a real tree, Isabel said, confused. She means one we cut down ourselves, Natalie explained, smiling. Oh yes. Harrison appeared with mugs of hot chocolate for everyone. That's a wonderful tradition. We'll definitely do that. The casual way he said next year, assuming they'd all be together, made Natalie's heart sing. This was her family now. Really and truly. One snowy Saturday afternoon, Harrison suggested a trip to the nearby ice rink. The four of them bundled up in coats and scarves, looking like a picture-perfect family in a holiday movie. At the rink, it quickly became apparent that Natalie was not a natural ice skater. She clung to the rail while the girls glided past, giggling. Harrison skated over to her, moving with the easy grace of someone who'd been doing this since childhood. Here, he said, offering his hand. Skate with me. I'll fall and take you down with me, Natalie warned. Then we'll fall together. Harrison's eyes twinkled. Come on. Trust me. Natalie let go of the rail and took his hand. He guided her slowly around the rink, patient and encouraging. When she wobbled, he steadied her. When she started to panic, he made her laugh with silly jokes. You're getting better, he said after their third lap. I'm just good at holding on to you, Natalie replied. Then hold on as long as you want. They watched Sophie and Isabel race each other around the ice, their cheeks pink with cold and happiness. They really are like sisters, Natalie observed. They are sisters, Harrison said. In every way that counts. That evening, after hot showers and warm dinners, the girls asked if they could have a sleepover in Isabel's room. They'd built a fort out of blankets and pillows and wanted to tell stories and giggle late into the night. Please, both girls begged. Okay, Harrison said. But not too late. We have church in the morning. After tucking the girls into their blanket fort, Harrison led Natalie to the sunroom at the back of the house. He'd lit a fire in the fireplace and snow was falling gently outside the windows. "This is beautiful," Natalie said, curling up on the couch beside him. "I wanted to talk to you about something," Harrison said, his tone making her heart race. "We've been living together for almost 2 months now. The girls are happy. I'm happy. Are you happy?" "So happy," Natalie said honestly. "Happier than I've ever been." "Good. Because I want to make this permanent." Harrison reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Natalie's breath caught. "Harrison. Wait, let me say this first." He took her hand. "When I met you, I was just going through the motions of life. Working constantly, barely present for Isabel, keeping everyone at a distance because it hurt less than letting people in. You changed all of that. You showed me that life is about connection, about love, about being present for the people who matter." Tears were streaming down Natalie's face now. "You're an incredible mother, an amazing partner, and the strongest person I know. You've built yourself up from nothing through sheer determination. You treat everyone with kindness. You've made my daughter smile again. You've made me believe in love again." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "Natalie Brooks, will you marry me?" Natalie couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears flowing freely now. "Is that a yes?" Harrison asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes," Natalie finally managed. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Harrison slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. "We should tell the girls," Natalie said. They climbed the stairs to Isabel's room and knocked gently. "Girls, can you come out for a minute?" Sophie and Isabel emerged from their fort, looking curious. "What's wrong?" Isabel asked. "Nothing's wrong," Harrison said. "In fact, something very right just happened. I asked Natalie to marry me and she said yes." For a moment both girls just stared. Then they started screaming and jumping up and down. "Really? You're getting married? We're going to be a real family?" Sophie grabbed Natalie's hand to look at the ring. "Mama, it's so pretty. Does this mean you'll be my new mom?" Isabel asked Natalie, her eyes hopeful. Natalie knelt down so she was at eye level with Isabel. "I would be honored to be your mom if that's what you want." "I want that so much," Isabel said, throwing her arms around Natalie's neck. Sophie hugged Harrison. "And you'll be my dad?" "I absolutely will be," Harrison said, his voice choked with emotion. "If that's okay with you." "It's the best thing ever," Sophie declared. The four of them stood in a group hug, holding each other tight, and Natalie felt complete in a way she never had before. This was her family. Her real, forever family. Later, after the girls had finally gone to sleep, still buzzing with excitement, Harrison and Natalie sat up talking about the wedding. "I don't want anything huge," Natalie said. "Just something small and meaningful." "Whatever you want," Harrison agreed. "Though I should warn you, my board will expect some kind of reception. Business obligations. We can do a small ceremony for family and close friends, and then a larger reception if we need to," Natalie suggested. "The important part is us, the girls, and the commitment we're making." "Perfect." Harrison pulled her close. "I can't wait to call you my wife." "I can't wait to be your wife," Natalie said. "Though it still feels a bit like a dream." "It's real," Harrison promised. "All of this is real. And it's forever." That night, Natalie lay in bed staring at the ring on her finger, watching it catch the moonlight streaming through the window. 6 months ago, she'd been struggling to afford a birthday dinner for her daughter. Now she was engaged to a billionaire, living in a beautiful home, with a career she loved and a family that filled her heart. But more than the material things, more than the security, what mattered most was love. Real, genuine, lasting love. The kind of love that saw her for who she was and valued her anyway. The kind of love that made her believe in happily ever after. And that, Natalie thought as she drifted off to sleep, was worth more than all the money in the world. The next 6 months flew by in a whirlwind of wedding planning and family life. Natalie and Harrison decided on a spring wedding, wanting to exchange vows surrounded by blooming flowers and warm sunshine. At work, Natalie continued to excel. She'd implemented a new parental leave policy that gave both mothers and fathers generous time off. She'd also started a mentorship program that paired senior employees with newer ones. Employee satisfaction had never been higher, and other companies were starting to ask Cole Enterprises for advice on their wellness programs. "You're becoming famous in HR circles," Helen told her one afternoon. Helen had stayed on as a consultant and had become a dear friend and mentor. I've had 3 companies call me asking if you'd be willing to speak at conferences. Really? Natalie was amazed. Really? You've transformed this company's culture. People want to know how you did it. I just treated people like they matter, Natalie said simply. Exactly. And that's revolutionary in the corporate world. The wedding planning was going smoothly, thanks largely to a wedding coordinator Harrison had insisted on hiring. The ceremony would take place in a garden venue on the outskirts of Chicago, with the reception in an elegant tent nearby. Sophie and Isabel were thrilled to be flower girls. They'd picked out matching lavender dresses and practiced walking down the aisle together in the living room approximately 5,000 times. We have to be perfect, Sophie, Isabel would say seriously. This is Mama and Daddy's special day. Natalie's mother, Gloria, flew in from Atlanta 2 weeks before the wedding. She'd been supportive from the moment Natalie told her about Harrison, but seeing her daughter in the beautiful home, wearing the engagement ring, truly happy for the first time in her life, brought Gloria to tears. My baby girl, Gloria said, hugging Natalie tight. You deserve all of this and more. I never thought this could happen for me, Natalie admitted. I thought I'd always be struggling. You were always meant for great things, Gloria said firmly. You just needed someone to see it. The night before the wedding, Natalie couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony of the bedroom she shared with Harrison, looking out at the garden below where tomorrow she'd become his wife. Harrison found her there, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Nervous? A little, Natalie admitted. What if I mess up the vows? What if I trip walking down the aisle? Then we'll laugh about it and keep going. Harrison pulled her close. Natalie, tomorrow isn't about perfection. It's about us promising to love each other through everything. The perfect moments and the messy ones. I love you so much, Natalie whispered. I love you too. Now come to bed. Big day tomorrow. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. The sky was clear blue, the temperature warm but not hot, and the garden was in full bloom with tulips, roses, and peonies. Natalie stood in the bridal suite, looking at herself in the mirror. Her dress was beautiful, a flowing royal blue gown with delicate beading on the bodice. She'd chosen blue instead of white because it felt more like her, more joyful and vibrant. Gloria helped her with her veil, tears in her eyes. You're stunning, baby. Sophie and Isabel burst into the room, adorable in their matching lavender dresses. Mama, it's almost time, Sophie announced. Are you ready? Isabel asked. Natalie took a deep breath and nodded. I'm ready. The ceremony was intimate with just 50 guests. Close friends, family, and a few key people from Cole Enterprises. As Natalie walked down the aisle, Gloria on one side and Sophie on the other, she saw Harrison waiting for her at the altar, and her heart felt full enough to burst. He looked incredible in his navy suit, but it was his expression that made her nearly cry. He was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When she reached the altar, Sophie and Isabel took their places holding the rings. The officiant began the ceremony, but Natalie barely heard the traditional words. She was too focused on Harrison's hands holding hers, on his eyes locked with hers. Then it was time for vows. Harrison went first. Natalie, when I met you, I was living but not truly alive. You showed me what real love looks like. Not the fairy tale kind, but the kind that shows up every day. The kind that cuts pasta into small pieces and works 2 jobs without complaining. The kind that builds people up instead of tearing them down. You've made me a better man and a better father. You've given Isabel a mother who loves her unconditionally. You've shown me that the heart can heal and love again. I promise to spend every day of the rest of my life making you feel as valued and loved as you've made me feel. I promise to be your partner in all things, to support your dreams, to stand by you in hard times and celebrate with you in good times. I promise to love Sophie as my own daughter and to build a family with you founded on kindness, respect, and joy. I love you, Natalie Brooks, and I can't wait to spend forever with you. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Natalie wiped her tears and took a shaky breath before beginning her vows. Harrison, 6 months ago I was a struggling single mother who thought happiness was something other people got to have. Then you walked into my life and showed me I was wrong. You saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I couldn't see my own worth. You gave me opportunities I'd never dreamed of, but more importantly, you gave me love. Real, patient, generous love. You've been a father to Sophie in every way that matters, loving her like she's your own. You've given us security, but you've also given us belonging. You've made us part of something bigger than ourselves. I promise to love you with everything I am. I promise to be a good mother to Isabel and to treasure the gift of her trust. I promise to build our business together and our family together, with equal commitment to both. I promise to never forget where I came from and to always use my experiences to help others. I promise to love you in the quiet moments and the chaotic ones, in the easy times and the challenging ones. You are my best friend, my partner, and my great love. Harrison Cole, I choose you today and every day for the rest of my life. There was applause and more tears. The officiant smiled and said, "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Harrison, you may kiss your bride." Harrison pulled Natalie close and kissed her deeply, and the garden erupted in cheers. Sophie and Isabel were jumping up and down, clapping. "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Cole," the officiant announced. As they walked back down the aisle together, hands linked, Natalie felt like she was floating. This was real. She was married. She had a family. She had a life beyond her wildest dreams. The reception was joyful and relaxed. Good food, good music, people dancing and laughing. Harrison and Natalie had their first dance to a beautiful slow song, and everyone watched them sway together, clearly deeply in love. Then came the father-daughter dance. But Harrison did something unexpected. He invited both Isabel and Sophie onto the dance floor, and the three of them danced together while Natalie watched, crying happy tears. Later in the evening, as the sun was setting and the string lights in the tent glowed warmly, Harrison found Natalie standing at the edge of the dance floor, watching their guests enjoy themselves. "Happy?" he asked, slipping an arm around her waist. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Natalie said. "This is perfect, Harrison. All of it. It's just the beginning," he promised. "We have a whole lifetime ahead of us." They stood together watching Sophie and Isabel dance with their grandmother, watching their friends celebrate, and Natalie felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had taken her on an unexpected journey, from struggle to success, from loneliness to love. But the best part wasn't the money or the big house or the fancy wedding. The best part was standing here, married to a man who truly saw her and loved her, with 2 daughters who called her mama, and a future full of possibility. "Thank you," Natalie whispered to Harrison. "For what?" "For seeing me. For choosing me. For loving me." Harrison kissed her temple. "Thank you for letting me. For trusting me. For building this life with me." As the night wore on and the celebration continued, Natalie Brooks Cole felt something she'd never truly felt before: complete peace. She was exactly where she was meant to be, with exactly who she was meant to be with. And that was the greatest gift of all. 3 months after the wedding, life had settled into a beautiful new rhythm. Natalie had officially adopted Isabel, and Harrison had adopted Sophie. The paperwork was complete, the court appearances done, and now they were legally and permanently a family of 4. The girls couldn't stop talking about it. "We're real sisters now," Isabel would say at least once a day. "Not just pretend sisters. Real ones." "We were always real sisters," Sophie would reply. "But now it's on paper too." At Cole Enterprises, Natalie had been promoted again. She was now Chief People Officer, overseeing not just HR but also company culture, diversity initiatives, and employee development. It was a role that had been created specifically for her, recognizing the incredible impact she'd had on the organization. "You're changing lives," Helen told her during one of their weekly coffee meetings. "Not just at this company but everywhere. I got a call last week from someone at Harvard Business School. They want to write a case study about your wellness programs." "That's surreal," Natalie said, shaking her head. "A year ago I was taking buses because my car was broken. Now Harvard wants to study my work." "That's what happens when you're excellent at what you do," Helen said with a smile. "You should be proud, Natalie. You've earned every bit of this." One warm June evening, the family was gathered in the backyard. Harrison was grilling hamburgers while Natalie and the girls set the picnic table. The yard was filled with the sound of laughter and the smell of summer flowers. "Daddy, can we get a puppy?" Isabel asked for approximately the 100th time. "Please?" Sophie added. "We promised to take care of it." Harrison looked at Natalie, who shrugged and smiled. "Why not?" she said. "We have the space and it would teach the girls responsibility." "Really?" both girls squealed. "Really," Harrison confirmed. "We can go to the shelter this weekend and find a dog that needs a home." The girls ran around the yard, already planning what they'd name their future dog and how they'd train it. Harrison slipped an arm around Natalie's waist. "Look at them," he said softly. "Happy, healthy, secure. That's because of you." "It's because of us," Natalie corrected. "We did this together." "We did," Harrison agreed. "And we're going to keep doing it. Building this life, this family, together." After dinner they played games in the yard until the sun started to set. Then they moved inside for movie night, all four of them piled on the big sectional couch with blankets and popcorn. Halfway through the movie, both girls fell asleep. Sophie's head was on Natalie's lap, Isabel curled against Harrison's side. The adults looked at each other over their sleeping daughters and smiled. "Should we carry them to bed?" Natalie whispered. "In a few minutes," Harrison said. "I want to enjoy this moment." They sat in the quiet living room, the movie playing softly, the girls sleeping peacefully. "A year ago I never imagined this," Natalie said softly. "I was so focused on just surviving, just making it through each day. I never let myself dream about being truly happy." "And now?" Harrison asked. "Now I'm living a dream I didn't even know I could have." Natalie looked at him, this man who had changed her entire life. "You saved us, Harrison." "No," Harrison said firmly. "You saved yourself. I just gave you an opportunity. Everything else, all the success and the growth and the incredible work you do, that's all you." "We saved each other," Natalie said. "You were lost in your grief and I was drowning in struggle. We found each other when we both needed it most." Harrison leaned over and kissed her gently, careful not to wake the girls. "Best thing I ever did was walk over to your table that night. Best thing I ever did was say yes when you asked to join us," Natalie replied. They carried the girls upstairs, tucking them into their respective beds. Natalie kissed Sophie's forehead, then went to Isabel's room and kissed her too. Harrison did the same with both girls. They'd become a true blended family, each parent loving both children equally. Later, in their own room as they got ready for bed, Harrison said, "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" Natalie asked, brushing her hair. "Starting a foundation. Using our resources to help single parents who are struggling the way you were. Providing job training, childcare assistance, car repairs, whatever they need to get ahead." Natalie turned to look at him, tears in her eyes. "Harrison, that's beautiful. I want to call it the Brooks Foundation after you. You're the inspiration." "No," Natalie said. "Let's call it the Second Chances Foundation. Because that's what this is all about. Giving people a second chance at life." Harrison pulled her into a hug. "Perfect. We'll start working on it next week." They climbed into bed and Natalie snuggled against Harrison's side, her head on his chest. "I love our life," she murmured. "I love it too," Harrison said, running his fingers through her hair. "And I love you. I love you more." "Impossible," Harrison teased. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, secure in their love and their family. The next morning, Natalie woke to bright sunshine streaming through the windows. She could hear Harrison in the shower and the girls laughing downstairs. She stretched, smiling, and got out of bed. In the kitchen, Sophie and Isabel were making pancakes, or attempting to. There was flour on the counter, on the floor, and somehow on the ceiling. But they were giggling and having fun, working together like the sisters they'd become. "Morning, Mama," they chorused when they saw her. "Good morning, my loves. What's all this?" "We wanted to make you breakfast," Sophie explained. "To say thank you." "Thank you for what?" Natalie asked, helping them pour batter into the pan. "For being the best mom ever," Isabel said simply. "And for giving us a family." Natalie hugged both girls tight, blinking back tears. "You two are the best things that ever happened to me." Harrison appeared, freshly showered and dressed for the day. "Are we making breakfast? I want to help too." The four of them worked together in the kitchen, making a joyfully messy breakfast. They ate at the kitchen table, talking and laughing, planning their day. They'd go to the park, maybe get ice cream, come home and work in the garden. Ordinary things. Simple things. But to Natalie, who had spent so many years struggling and alone, these ordinary moments were extraordinary. This was what she'd always wanted and never dared to hope for. A family. A home. Security. Love. After breakfast, while the girls were outside playing, Natalie stood at the kitchen window watching them. Harrison came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How far we've come," Natalie said. "How one dinner changed everything." "It was meant to be," Harrison said. "I truly believe that. We were meant to find each other." "I believe that too," Natalie agreed. "And I'm so grateful we did." They stood together, watching their daughters play, and Natalie felt a profound sense of contentment wash over her. This was home. This was family. This was love. The journey from that restaurant table to this moment had been incredible. From struggling single mother to successful executive. From loneliness to love. From uncertainty to security. From fear to faith. But the most important transformation wasn't external. It was internal. Natalie had learned that she was worthy of love, worthy of success, worthy of happiness. She'd learned that accepting help wasn't weakness but wisdom. She'd learned that kindness could change lives. And most importantly, she'd learned that happily ever after wasn't just for fairy tales. It was real. It was possible. And it was hers. As the morning sun shone down on their beautiful home and their beautiful family, Natalie Brooks Cole smiled. This was just the beginning. They had a whole lifetime of ordinary, extraordinary moments ahead of them. And she couldn't wait to live every single one. What do you think makes a family? Is it blood or is it love? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe in second chances and the power of kindness, hit that subscribe button to see more heartwarming stories.